The giant metal doors opened with a soft hiss. Dr. Maya Chen took a deep breath and stepped forward, Captain Marcus Wallace at her side. The human delegation entered the vast chamber of the Vasilic Confederation, the most powerful alliance in the known galaxy. "Remember," whispered Captain Wallace, his hand briefly touching Maya's shoulder, "no matter what they say, we represent all of Earth." Maya nodded, her dark eyes fixed on the aliens ahead. The Vasilic representatives stood tall, their bodies like living crystal sculptures catching the light from above. They had 4 arms each and smooth faces with no visible mouths, only glowing spots where eyes might be. "The human delegates approach," announced a mechanical voice, translating for all present. "Earth's first contact representatives seek admission to the Confederation." The chamber held at least 20 different alien species. Some looked almost like animals from Earth, furry or scaled or feathered. Others were completely strange, clouds of gas contained in floating shells, or beings made of what looked like liquid metal. The tallest Vasilic stepped forward. Its crystal body hummed with blue light. "We welcome Earth's primitive species," it said through the translator. "How amusing that you have managed basic space travel with your limited brains and short lives." Maya felt her face grow hot, but she kept her expression calm. "The people of Earth thank you for this audience. We come seeking friendship and knowledge exchange." A strange sound filled the room, a high ringing tone that echoed off the walls. Maya realized with shock that they were laughing. "Knowledge exchange." The lead Vasilic's body flickered with pulsing light. "What could your infant species possibly teach us? You who have barely left your own moon." Captain Wallace stepped forward, his military training evident in his straight posture. "We may be younger, but humans are quick learners. We have music, art, mathematics." "Mathematics," interrupted another Vasilic. "They think arranging numbers is an achievement." More of the crystal-like laughter filled the room. The lead alien gestured with its upper arms. "Humans will be granted Category 7 trading rights. You may visit designated ports only. Technology exchange is forbidden." Maya's heart sank. Category 7 was the lowest possible status, barely better than being banned outright. "We request reconsideration," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Earth can offer unique perspectives." The laughter grew louder. The Vasilic representatives swayed, their bodies chiming together in what seemed like shared amusement. "Unique perspectives," one mocked. "Next, they will offer us dirt as a precious gift." Maya felt Wallace tense beside her. His fists were clenched, but he remained silent. "The decision is made," said the lead alien. "Return to your ship. Your diplomatic quarters will be in the outer ring, where we house other primitive species." As they turned to leave, Maya noticed something strange. When the Vasilic leader had spoken certain words, she had heard patterns that seemed oddly familiar, almost like echoes of ancient Sanskrit or Proto-Indo-European. Back on their ship, Wallace slammed his fist against the wall. "They treated us like children, like pets." But Maya was quiet, her mind racing. She pulled up her linguistics database on her tablet. "What are you doing?" Wallace asked. Maya looked up, her eyes bright with excitement despite their humiliation. "Something about their language," she said softly. "I've heard it before, and I think that might change everything." 3 days had passed since the meeting with the Vasilic Confederation. The human ship floated in the outer ring of the massive space station, far away from the important areas where the powerful aliens lived. Inside the ship, Dr. Maya Chen hadn't slept much. Her small office was filled with data screens showing strange symbols and sound patterns. Empty coffee cups sat scattered around her desk. Captain Wallace entered the room, carrying a tray with food. "You need to eat," he said, placing the tray beside her. "You've barely left this room." Maya pushed her dark hair from her face and looked up with tired eyes. "I'm onto something, Marcus. Something big." "What have you found?" he asked, pulling up a chair. Maya pointed to her main screen. Look at these sound patterns from the Vasilic language. She played a recording, and strange musical tones filled the room. Now listen to this. She played another recording of what sounded like an old man speaking a harsh, ancient language. What was that? Wallace asked. Proto-Indo-European, Maya said, her eyes bright with excitement despite her exhaustion. It's one of the oldest known language roots on Earth, what many modern languages evolved from. The patterns match, Marcus. Not exactly, but too close to be random chance. Wallace looked confused. Are you saying the Vasilic speak an Earth language? No. Maya shook her head. I'm saying both languages might share a common ancestor. She pulled up another screen showing star maps. I did some research in the public archives they gave us access to. There are mentions of a race called the Architects, who supposedly created the foundation of the Confederation thousands of years ago. So the Architects vanished about 7,000 years ago, Maya continued, right around the time Proto-Indo-European was developing on Earth. What if they visited our planet? What if they influenced our earliest languages? Wallace sat back, taking in this information. That would mean humans have a connection to the founders of the Confederation. He suddenly understood the importance of her discovery, a connection the Vasilic might not want known. Maya nodded eagerly. Exactly, but there's more. She pulled up another screen showing restricted archive entries. I found references to a place called the Forgotten Outpost in both Confederation records and, strangely enough, in ancient Sumerian texts from Earth. How did you get access to restricted archives? Wallace asked, looking concerned. Maya gave a small smile. Let's just say their security systems aren't designed to keep out people who understand Proto-Indo-European language structures. Wallace stood up, pacing the small room. This is dangerous, Maya. If they catch us accessing restricted information, we need to find that outpost. Maya interrupted. The coordinates are hidden in these texts. I just need to decode them. She looked at Wallace with determination in her eyes. The Vasilic are hiding something about humanity's place in the galaxy. Don't you want to know what it is? Wallace was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. What do you need? Time, Maya said, turning back to her screens. And access to the ship's navigation systems when I figure out where we need to go. The Vasilic won't let us leave without permission, Wallace warned. Maya's face hardened with resolve. Then we'll have to be creative, because one way or another, we're going to discover the truth about humanity's connection to the stars. The small human ship moved quietly through the empty space at the edge of Confederation territory. Captain Wallace sat at the controls, his eyes constantly checking the radar for any signs of pursuit. Are you sure about these coordinates? He asked, looking over at Maya. She nodded, her face lit by the blue glow of her tablet. As sure as I can be. The location appears in both Sumerian star maps and Confederation restricted files. It had taken them 3 days to slip away from the space station. They had told the Vasilic they were returning to Earth to discuss trade options. Instead, they had changed course as soon as they were out of sensor range. There it is, Maya said suddenly, pointing ahead. In the distance floated what looked like a small moon, but as they got closer, they could see it wasn't natural. The surface was covered with strange geometric patterns and structures. It's artificial, Wallace said in amazement, and huge. They circled the outpost, looking for a place to land. Most of the structure seemed damaged or decayed, but one area still had lights glowing faintly. There, Maya pointed. That looks like a docking bay. Wallace carefully guided their ship into the ancient structure. The docking mechanisms were surprisingly compatible with their ship, almost as if they had been designed for similar vessels. After checking that the air was breathable, they stepped out into the outpost. The gravity was slightly lighter than Earth's, making them feel bouncy as they walked. This place is old, Wallace said, shining his light on the walls. Really old. Maya ran her hand along the wall. The surface was covered in faded symbols that seemed to glow slightly at her touch. "These markings," she whispered, "they're similar to early Sanskrit and Babylonian writing, but different." She pulled out her scanner and began recording the symbols. They moved deeper into the outpost, finding rooms filled with strange equipment. Most of it was dead, but some still hummed with power. "Look at this," Wallace called from one room. "These look like control chairs, but—" Maya entered and stopped in surprise. The control chairs were clearly designed for human bodies. 2 arms, 2 legs, and a headrest. "They're made for beings like us," she said, "not for the Vasilic or any of the other Confederation species we saw." They continued exploring until they found a sealed door at the end of a long corridor. Unlike the other doors that opened automatically, this one remained shut. "There must be a way to open it," Wallace said, examining the door. Maya noticed a panel beside the door covered in symbols. Something about them seemed familiar. On impulse, she touched the panel and spoke aloud, using words she had reconstructed from Proto-Indo-European. "Asterisk vrith nem dvorsis asterisk," she said, her voice echoing in the corridor. To their shock, the panel lit up with blue light, and the door slowly slid open. "How did you do that?" Wallace asked, staring at her. Maya's face was pale. "I said open the door in what I thought might be the ancient root language. And it worked, Marcus. It worked." They stepped through the doorway into a circular chamber. In the center stood a pedestal with a single object on it, a small crystal sphere that glowed with inner light. "What is this place?" Wallace whispered. As if in answer, the sphere suddenly projected a hologram that filled the room. It showed star systems, planets, and what appeared to be migration routes across the galaxy. And at the center of it all was a clear image of Earth. "It's a map," Maya said, her voice filled with wonder. "A map showing Earth's connection to something much bigger than we ever imagined." The journey back to Earth was tense. Captain Wallace kept their ship on unusual routes, avoiding the main space lanes where Vasilic patrols might find them. In the cargo hold, carefully packed in special containers, were artifacts they had taken from the forgotten outpost, including the crystal sphere with its mysterious hologram. "Do you think they know we went there?" Maya asked, looking out at the stars as Earth came into view. Wallace shrugged. "Hard to say, but we should assume they're watching us now." When they landed, Maya immediately contacted Dr. Hiroshi Takeda, Earth's leading archaeologist, and Dr. Sarah Okafor, an expert in ancient languages. Within days, a special research team was assembled in a secure facility beneath the old University of Alexandria. "This is incredible," Dr. Takeda said, carefully examining a metal tablet covered with symbols. "These markings show clear connections to Sumerian, Egyptian, and even ancient Chinese writing systems." Dr. Okafor nodded, her fingers moving across her keyboard as she compared the symbols to Earth's language database. "It's as if all our oldest languages came from this one source." Maya watched them work, her excitement growing. "How long until we can translate it?" "Weeks, maybe months," Dr. Okafor replied. "We're talking about the mother of all languages here." Meanwhile, Captain Wallace faced problems of his own. The Vasilic had sent a formal message demanding the return of stolen property from restricted Confederation territory. Earth's United Council was meeting to discuss the situation. "They're threatening a blockade," Council President Dias told Wallace in her office. "They say we violated Confederation law." "With all due respect, Madam President," Wallace replied, "what we found changes everything. The Vasilic have been hiding the truth from us." "What truth?" she asked. "That humans have some connection to the architects, the founders of the Confederation. The outpost was designed for beings like us, not like them." President Dias rubbed her temples. "We can't fight the entire Confederation, Captain." "We may not have to," Wallace said. "Dr. Chen believes that if we can decode the language, we'll find answers that might change our position." Back in the research facility, progress was slow but steady. The team worked day and night, feeding data into powerful computers and comparing patterns. It's not just a language, Maya explained to Wallace when he visited. It's a system that combines mathematics, music, and quantum concepts. Look at this. She showed him a sequence that seemed to shift and change as they watched it. What does it mean? He asked. We're not sure yet, she admitted, but we've translated a few basic phrases. This one here, she pointed to a series of symbols, seems to be a greeting or an activation phrase. Before Wallace could reply, an alarm sounded. Dr. Takeda rushed into the room. Facilic ships have entered Earth orbit, he said breathlessly. A lot of them. Maya and Wallace exchanged worried looks. They needed more time. We have to stall them, Wallace said. How? Maya asked. Wallace thought for a moment. You said you translated a greeting. Maybe it's time we spoke to the Facilic in a language they haven't heard in thousands of years. Maya's eyes widened. That's incredibly risky. We don't know enough yet. We don't have a choice, Wallace said grimly. They're here, and they want what we found. Maya looked down at the tablet in her hands, then nodded slowly. I'll need to address their leader directly. The future of Earth might depend on what happened next. The United Council chamber was filled with tension. On the large screen at the front, the crystalline face of the Facilic High Commander glowed with blue anger. You will return all artifacts removed from Confederation property immediately, the alien demanded. Your unauthorized access to restricted areas is a serious violation. President Diaz stood tall despite her fear. We are still examining the items in question. Perhaps we could discuss. There is nothing to discuss, interrupted the commander. You have one Earth day to comply, or we will take action. Maya sat at the back of the room, her heart racing. The translation team had worked through the night, and they now had 7 words they believed were correctly translated from the ancient language. 7 words that might change everything, if they were right. She passed a note to President Diaz, who read it quickly and gave a small nod. High Commander, said President Diaz, before you disconnect, one of our researchers would like to address you directly. The Facilic's body flashed with patterns of light that suggested irritation. Very well. But be brief. Maya walked to the front of the chamber on shaky legs. She looked up at the enormous screen showing the alien leader. High Commander, she began in English, we believe we have found something important to the history of both our peoples. The alien made the chiming sound that humans now recognized as laughter. Your primitive species has no shared history with the Confederation. Maya took a deep breath and spoke the 7 words they had translated from the ancient language. Asterisk column athra vol, merim enta solus nath asterisk. The chamber fell completely silent. On the screen, the Facilic High Commander froze. The blue light of its crystalline body flickered wildly, then dimmed to a pale glow. When it spoke again, its translated voice was quiet and shaking. How do you know the words of creation? Maya hadn't expected this reaction. She glanced at Wallace, who looked equally surprised. We found them, she said simply. At the outpost. The place responded to us, to human language. The High Commander's body pulsed with rapid flashes of light, some sort of communication with others off-screen. Then it leaned closer to the camera. You will transmit no more of the ancient tongue, it commanded. We are sending a diplomatic vessel to your planet. You will share all your findings with our experts. The screen went dark. The council chamber erupted with voices asking questions. President Diaz raised her hands for silence. Dr. Chen, she said, turning to Maya, what exactly did you say to them? Maya looked confused. Based on our translations, I said, we speak with the voice of the star travelers. It was just a formal greeting we found repeated in several texts. Wallace stepped forward. Whatever it meant, it scared them. Did you see how the commander reacted? The Facilic knows something about this language that they're not telling us. But they're coming here now, said one council member. Isn't that dangerous? It's also an opportunity, Maya said. They're no longer treating us like primitives. They're treating us like equals, or maybe even like a threat. President Diaz looked thoughtful. How much more can you translate before their ship arrives? With the whole team working nonstop, maybe 20% of what we found, Maya answered. Then you have your orders, said the president. Learn everything you can about this language and why it matters so much to the Vasilic. The future of Earth may depend on it. As Maya left the chamber, she realized something had fundamentally changed. For the first time since humans met the Confederation, the aliens weren't laughing anymore. The Vasilic diplomatic ship arrived within 12 hours. It was enormous, at least 10 times the size of Earth's largest vessel. It settled into orbit, a silent reminder of the Confederation's power. 7 Vasilic officials transported down to the Alexandria Research Facility. Their crystalline bodies sparkled under Earth's sun as they were escorted inside. The head of the delegation, who introduced himself as Elder Zurix, moved with a stiffness that suggested extreme age. Maya, Wallace, and President Diaz met them in a large conference room where some of the artifacts were displayed. "We have come to see what you have found," Elder Zurix said without any greeting. Maya gestured to the tables. "These are some of the items we recovered from the outpost." The Vasilic moved around the room, their bodies humming with excitement as they examined each artifact. When Elder Zurix reached the crystal sphere, he stopped and stared at it for a long time. "You have activated this?" he asked, his voice quiet. "Yes," Maya answered. "It showed us a star map with Earth at the center." Elder Zurix turned to face the humans. His body pulsed with slow waves of deep blue light. "What I tell you now has been hidden for thousands of years," he said. "The beings you call the architects were the first space travelers. They created the foundations of the Confederation and seeded many worlds with life and technology before they vanished." Maya leaned forward. "And what is their connection to humans?" "That is what we feared," Elder Zurix admitted. "When the architects disappeared, they left behind fragments of their knowledge across the galaxy. Their language, what we call primeval syntax, was considered lost, preserved only in our most sacred texts. But humans still have connections to this language in our oldest tongues," Maya said. "Yes," the elder's light dimmed, "which suggests the architects had special plans for your world. This is troubling to many in the Confederation." Wallace crossed his arms. "Why is it troubling? Shouldn't you be happy to find a connection to your founders?" The elder's body flashed with sharp pulses. "The architects were powerful beyond your understanding. Their technology shaped stars and created life. If they chose humans for some purpose," he left the sentence unfinished. President Diaz spoke up. "What exactly are you afraid of, Elder Zurix?" Before he could answer, another Vasilic rushed into the room, its body flashing with urgent patterns. It spoke to Elder Zurix in their own language, a series of musical tones too fast for the translators to catch. Elder Zurix turned back to the humans, his light now pulsing rapidly. "The Confederation Council has voted. All knowledge of primeval syntax in human possession must be surrendered immediately. Earth will be quarantined until this matter is resolved." "Quarantined?" President Diaz stood up angrily. "On what grounds?" "Your species is deemed too volatile to possess architect knowledge," Elder Zurix said. "Confederation warships are already moving to enforce this decision." Maya felt cold fear spreading through her body. "You're blockading Earth, just because we can understand this language." "It is for the safety of the galaxy," the elder said. "Humans are unpredictable and aggressive. With architect knowledge, you could become dangerous." As the aliens left the room, Wallace turned to Maya and President Diaz, his face grim. "They're scared of us," he said quietly. "Not of what we are now, but of what we might become." Maya looked down at the ancient tablet in her hands. "We need to translate more. Fast. There must be something in here that can help us." Outside, more Vasilic ships appeared in Earth's skies like new stars, beautiful, distant, and deadly. 3 days after the Vasilic blockade began, Earth received an unexpected message. It came through a private channel directly to Maya's computer. "Dr. Chen, we wish to help you. The sender identified themselves as Nexel, a representative of the Derovi, a small insect-like species that Maya remembered seeing at the Confederation Assembly. "Why would you help us?" Maya asked during their secure video call. Wallace and President Dias stood behind her, out of view. The Derovi's compound eyes gleamed. "The Vasilic have ruled the Confederation for too long. Many smaller species suffer under their control. If humans truly have a connection to the architects, it could change everything." "What kind of help can you offer?" Wallace asked, stepping into view. "Coordinates," Nexel replied, "to a place the Vasilic have hidden from all records, an architect temple near the galactic core. And—" the alien hesitated, "we can help your ship slip past the blockade." President Dias looked skeptical. "This could be a trap." "Perhaps," Nexel admitted, "but ask yourselves, why are the Vasilic so afraid of what you might learn?" After much debate, a plan was formed. A small team including Maya and Wallace would take Earth's fastest research vessel and attempt to reach the hidden temple. If the Derovi were telling the truth, it might contain knowledge that could help Earth. 5 other Confederation species secretly provided help: star maps, security codes, and advanced cloaking technology. It seemed humans weren't the only ones unhappy with Vasilic rule. Their ship, the Curiosity, slipped away from Earth during a solar flare that temporarily blinded the blockade sensors. Once clear, they activated the cloaking device and set course for the coordinates Nexel had provided. "If we're caught, Earth will suffer," Wallace said as they entered hyperspace. "The Vasilic might see this as an act of war." Maya nodded grimly. "That's why we can't fail." The journey took 8 days. They narrowly avoided Vasilic patrols twice, hiding in the shadow of gas giants. Finally, they reached a dense asteroid field near the galactic core. "The temple should be here," Maya said, checking the coordinates. "But I don't see anything." Wallace piloted carefully between the asteroids. "Maybe it's hidden somehow." Maya studied the ancient tablet they had brought. "Wait, there's a phrase here." She spoke 7 words in primeval syntax. Suddenly, the space before them shimmered. A massive structure appeared, floating among the asteroids but previously invisible. It was shaped like a perfect sphere with a surface covered in intricate geometric patterns. It was cloaked. Wallace whispered in awe. They approached carefully. The sphere had a single opening that glowed with soft light. As they drew near, the light changed color from blue to green. "I think it's welcoming us," Maya said. They docked their ship in a bay that seemed designed for vessels much like theirs. Inside, the temple was a marvel of impossible architecture. Rooms that seemed larger inside than outside, corridors that curved in ways that should not be possible, and surfaces made of a material that felt solid but rippled like water when touched. At the center of the temple, they found a vast circular chamber. In the middle stood a column of swirling light that reached from floor to ceiling. "What is it?" Wallace asked, his voice hushed. Maya approached slowly. According to the translations, this might be a knowledge repository. When she came within a few steps of the light, it pulsed and a voice spoke, not in English or any human language, but somehow perfectly understandable. "Greetings, inheritors," it said. "You have returned at last." "Inheritors," Wallace repeated, looking at Maya with confusion. "What does that mean?" Maya stepped closer to the column of light. "We seek knowledge about the architects and their connection to humans," she said carefully. The light pulsed and expanded, surrounding Maya in a gentle glow. Images began to form in the air around her: stars, planets, and strange beings with forms of pure energy. "The ones you call architects were the first ones," the voice explained. "They evolved beyond physical form millions of years ago, but they saw a threat approaching the galaxy, a force they called the Silence. The light showed a darkness moving between stars, leaving empty space behind. The Silence consumed knowledge and memory," continued the voice. "It erased civilizations from existence. The architects fought it, but realized they needed to preserve their knowledge in a form the silence could not detect. Maya watched in wonder as the images showed the architects creating various species across the galaxy. Many races were seeded to preserve different aspects of architect knowledge, the voice said. But humans were special, designed to encode the most important knowledge in your very DNA and language structures. That's why our ancient languages connect to primeval syntax, Maya whispered. Yes, you were created as the keystone, the species that could one day reconnect all fragments of architect civilization. Wallace stepped forward, but the Vasilic, the crystalline ones, were given the role of guardians. The voice interrupted. They were to watch over the younger races until the inheritors were ready. But over time, they forgot their purpose and began to see themselves as rulers. Suddenly, alarms sounded throughout the temple. Wallace rushed to a nearby panel. Vasilic ships, he reported grimly. A whole fleet. They found us. Maya turned back to the light. Can you help us? Earth is in danger. This temple was designed to respond to inheritors, the voice said. Speak the awakening words, and its full power will be yours. The light projected symbols in the air, a sequence of primeval syntax more complex than anything Maya had seen before. I don't know if I can pronounce all this correctly, she said nervously. You can, the voice assured her. It is written in your very being. Outside, the Vasilic ships began firing on the asteroid field, trying to clear a path to the temple. The whole structure shook with each explosion. We're out of time, Wallace said. They'll be here in minutes. Maya focused on the symbols, letting her mind connect with the ancient language. She began to speak, the words flowing from her lips as if she had known them her whole life. The temple responded to each word, lights pulsing and systems activating throughout the structure. As she spoke the final phrase, the entire temple hummed with power. The asteroids around them began to move, forming a protective barrier. What's happening? Wallace asked, watching through the viewport. The temple's defense systems, Maya said in amazement. They're responding to us. The Vasilic continued their approach, their weapons firing at the moving asteroids. But for each rock they destroyed, 2 more moved into position. A message came through from the lead Vasilic ship. Surrender the temple, or we will destroy you and your planet. Maya looked at Wallace, then back at the column of light. There's more, isn't there? She asked the voice. More temples, more knowledge hidden across the galaxy. Yes, the voice confirmed, all waiting for the inheritors to awaken them. Maya's face set with determination. Then let's show the Vasilic exactly who they've been laughing at. News of the temple's activation spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. The Vasilic fleet continued their attack, but they couldn't break through the asteroid shield. Every time they destroyed one floating rock, the temple systems pulled in more to replace it. Inside the temple, Maya had connected her communication device to the knowledge repository. She was broadcasting a message on all Confederation frequencies, speaking in both English and primeval syntax. To all species of the Confederation, she said, the truth has been hidden from you. Humans are the inheritors, chosen by the architects to reunite their knowledge. The Vasilic have betrayed their original purpose as guardians. Wallace monitored the Vasilic fleet's communications. They're scrambling to block your transmission, he told Maya. But they're too late. Ships from at least 12 different species are heading this way. Within hours, vessels of all shapes and sizes began arriving at the temple. Some were small trading ships, others were massive cruisers representing entire planetary systems. They took defensive positions around the temple, forming a second barrier beyond the asteroids. We stand with the inheritors, came a message from a Darovi ship. Similar declarations followed from other species. The Vasilic High Command sent an urgent transmission directly to Maya. You do not understand the power you are meddling with. The architect's technology was not meant for primitive minds. Maya broadcast her response to all ships. Then why are the temple systems responding to us? Why did the architects encode their language in our DNA? The Vasilic have been lying to all of us. A new ship arrived, larger than any of the others. Its design was unlike anything seen in the Confederation. "That's a Orcs dreadnought," Wallace said in amazement. "I thought they lived beyond the galactic rim and never dealt with the Confederation." The Orcs sent a message in perfect primeval syntax. Their leader, a tall being with 6 eyes and scaled skin, appeared on the view screen. "We have watched from afar for 10,000 years," the Orcs leader said, waiting for the sign that the inheritors had awakened. "We too preserve a fragment of the architect's knowledge." More ships continued to arrive. Some species Maya had never seen before, others she recognized from the Confederation assembly. All of them had been waiting, watching, hoping for this moment. The Vasilic fleet held their position, now greatly outnumbered. Their attacks had stopped. Inside the temple, the knowledge repository continued to share its secrets with Maya. She learned how to fully activate the temple's systems, connecting it to other dormant architect sites across the galaxy. With each activation, more knowledge flowed back to the temple. "The Vasilic leadership is sending orders to attack Earth," Wallace said suddenly, intercepting their communications. "They think destroying humanity's homeworld will stop this uprising." Maya's face hardened with determination. "They still don't understand what's happening. This isn't about one planet anymore. This is about the future of the entire galaxy." She turned to the light column. "Show me how to protect Earth," she commanded. The light shimmered and displayed a complex sequence of primeval syntax. "This will activate all dormant architect technology on your planet," the voice explained. "But be warned, once begun, this process cannot be stopped. The awakening will spread beyond your control." Maya looked at Wallace. He nodded. "Do it," he said, "before the Vasilic fleet reaches Earth." Maya took a deep breath and began to speak the ancient words that would change everything. As Maya spoke the final words of the activation sequence, the temple pulsed with blinding light. A wave of energy spread outward from the structure, moving faster than any ship could travel. The energy wave was invisible to normal sensors, but the temple's systems showed it racing across the galaxy. "What's happening?" Wallace asked, watching the display. "The signal is activating all dormant architect technology," Maya explained, her voice filled with wonder. "Not just on Earth, but everywhere." On Earth, strange structures began to emerge from the ground, the ocean, and even the atmosphere. They weren't being built, they had always been there, hidden by technology beyond human understanding. Similar events were happening on thousands of worlds across the galaxy. The Vasilic battle fleet approaching Earth suddenly stopped. Reports came in from across the Confederation. All Vasilic weapons and warships had simply powered down, leaving them floating helplessly in space. Back at the temple, a new transmission came from the Vasilic High Council. The crystalline beings looked diminished somehow. Their usual bright glow faded to a dull shimmer. "We surrender," said the Vasilic leader. "The architect systems have rejected our commands. We cannot fight anymore." "We don't want to fight," Maya replied. "We want the truth." The truth came out in the hours that followed. The Vasilic admitted they had discovered records thousands of years ago, revealing humanity's special purpose. Fearing they would lose their power if humans ever learned of their heritage, they had kept Earth isolated and primitive, preventing humans from developing faster space travel that might have led to discoveries. "We built our empire by using architect technology," the Vasilic leader confessed, "but we could never fully control it. It was designed to respond only to the inheritors, to humans." Ships from hundreds of worlds gathered around Earth. The old Confederation was falling apart as species broke away from Vasilic control. Representatives from all corners of the galaxy requested permission to visit Earth and meet with the inheritors. President Diaz, speaking from a podium surrounded by newly activated architect structures in Alexandria, addressed the galaxy. "Humans do not seek to rule. We wish to fulfill our purpose as keepers and sharers of knowledge. Let us build something new together." A new alliance formed, not based on fear or dominance, but on cooperation and the sharing of architect knowledge. Humans became teachers of primeval syntax, helping other species access the ancient technology on their own worlds. Maya found herself training representatives from dozens of species. The language isn't just words, she explained to her diverse students. It's a key that connects mind, matter, and energy. Wallace led expeditions to activate more architect sites and bring back lost knowledge. Earth became a center of learning and diplomacy for the entire galaxy. 6 months after the temple's activation, a new signal arrived from deep space, other inheritor species responding to the awakening. The architects had created several guardian races, sending them to different parts of the cosmos to preserve their legacy. As Maya stood on the observation deck of the New Earth Diplomatic Center, watching ships from 100 worlds moving peacefully in orbit, she remembered how the Vasilic had once laughed at humans.